All right, well, it's 3:30 by my clock, so we're going to get started. Hey, Julie, thanks for joining us. Today we are doing a Libraries Build Business community discussion. The topic today is marketing and outreach. We'll be led by two of our Libraries Build Business peer coaches, Carly Feinberg and Chris Bourret, from the Baltimore County Public Library and the Providence Public Library. So this is a new thing we're trying out to get to know our community better. We had one discussion in October that we had a lot of fun with, and we're trying it again this month. So definitely there'll be a survey at the end, a quick 1-minute exit ticket. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you think about this presentation or future topics you'd be interested in discussing as a community. We are trying out this format as well. That's a little bit more informal. We really hope to engage in discussion and conversation today. It's not going to be just like a webinar, but people are welcome to jump in via chat or unmute yourself. So yeah, we'd love your feedback. We'd love to see you again. I already said I'm going to put the invite link to our Slack space in the chat in just a minute. So if you haven't already joined us on Slack in our community group, you are welcome to join us there. We'd love to have you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris to get us started.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone. Thanks for everyone for joining today. It's a great group. Nice turnout, too. Thanks. I'm Chris Bourret from the Providence Public Library, too, and I manage the education department of the Providence Public Library. And part of what I oversee is our business programs, especially around English as a second language classes for immigrant entrepreneurs, too. And we do other public-facing programs, too. And I'll introduce Carly Feinberg from Baltimore County Public Library.
Everyone, my name is Carly Feinberg. I'm the small business consultant at Baltimore County Public Library. My three main roles are forming partnerships with the business community, creating business-related programming, and internal training for our staff. So thank you for joining us today. It was a great turnout, and we're happy to have you here.
Thanks, Carly. Thanks. And to get us started today, all right, let's see if this technology works. I'm going to get out of the slides for a second. And I'm actually going to go to, I actually wanted to give you guys a little poll and just to get us thinking about the topic too. And basically I'm thinking about organizations that you've partnered with, and it could be around business or something else educationally related. What words come to mind when you talk about partnerships too? And let me say, let me forget back to that. So the way to make this work too is when the poll is active right now, I'll make sure it's active, and you can respond. If you open up another tab in your browser, you're going to be able to go to pollev.com, and you're going to have a Christopher B 574 / there. If you go there, you're going to be able to, you'll be open to this poll, and you can put in, it's going to make a word cloud based on our responses too. So thinking about organizations that your library partners with, like what comes to mind, like just brainstorming what first things come to mind too. And that, like, and I know I was talking with some other librarians at my library today about this too, and there's a lot. A lot of different words came up, but I'm curious to see what you guys come up with too. Thanks already for responding, everyone. So we got increased capacity, which is an interesting one, right? That we can actually increase what we do in our library with other partners too. Feedback, right? That's an important one too. Feedback from communities that we want to serve and from partners is also a really interesting one too. And at our library, we're talking about how to get ways you can get feedback from different agencies too. Relationships, right? Building relationships in the community. We've got efficiency and systems and what you do at the library, building capacity. Yep. Abundance.
These are great answers.
Yeah, these are great answers. Yeah, I love it. And I'll save this poll, but we can put the answers in the Slack community later too. It's great. Expertise, capacity. Yeah, and things that are mutually beneficial too. Yep. See, capacity is a big one for a lot of libraries too. Yeah, so partners help you build capacity in a lot of different ways too. Thanks. This is great. Carly, any thoughts on that too, from that question?
Well, this is great just because a lot of the words that are showing up, we're going to discuss in this presentation. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's good. Thanks everyone for just, yeah, thinking about those thoughts too. Expertise, efficiency, opportunity is a great one too. That's the first one that came to mind when I think about that too. Opportunities. Okay, great.
prosperity.
Prosperity. Yeah, especially talking about in terms of entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah, it's great.
Wow, they're still coming in. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Gets me thinking about the topic too. So just to get your mind on the topic today, yeah, thinking about partnerships. And so today we're talking about partners in terms of community partners too, of building that relationships with community partners, and then as a corollary to that is how to engage audiences, especially entrepreneur audiences in this sense, but it could relate to any other kind of programmatic decisions that you make at libraries too. All right, thanks everyone. Cool. Any final thoughts, Carly? Should we go to the slides?
Yeah, I'm ready. I think that
All
was
right,
some great
cool.
participation.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Okay. So talking about connecting with entrepreneur support organizations too is our first topic. So first talking about marketing and outreach and how do you get community support to help you with what you're doing at the library too. Okay. And first we've got why outreach.
Why outreach? So just as a recap, entrepreneur support organizations are just groups that provide training, support, and sometimes funding to entrepreneurs. So why outreach? Outreach provides a lot of things, but first and foremost, it allows you to establish your library as part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. That's the most important part of it. But it allows you to share what business resources your library is offering. And even if you're early on and you're just starting to get more into business support, you might have some business databases. I'm sure you have a ton of great business books. So just really think about all the resources that you have that you can share with others. Next, it allows you to be a connector in the community that can bring different entrepreneurs and organizations together. Libraries are already seen as connectors in the community, so it allows you to act as a connector in this business space. And then lastly, it allows you to leverage external expertise and networks, which allow for opportunities for great library programming, and also will allow you to refer customers to these organizations that might be able to benefit them.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Carly. Yeah, and I like the expertise that came up in our world just now too. It's great.
Yeah, connecting all of our words.
Yeah, that's good too. Yeah, no, this is great. I totally agree. Yeah, with the outreach.
So now we're going to talk about where to even start. First, we're going to talk about understanding your local entrepreneurial ecosystem. I think this is the most important thing you want to do at the beginning to really understand what exists, what's already available, and where your library can fit in. And as you learn about your entrepreneurial ecosystem, it'll allow you to determine what factors encourage entrepreneurship and what factors inhibit entrepreneurship in your community. And this all depends on where you're located. And then lastly, with this information, you can determine what gaps exist and where your library can fill in. Because the most important thing when you're offering business resources and services is you don't want to replicate what's already available. You don't want other entrepreneur support organizations in your community to think you're competing with them. This will make things extra complicated. You want to realize what's already being offered and what your library can provide that can fill in those gaps.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point too, is that sometimes I know when I first started, you go out to the community organizations, I think everyone wants to be your partner, but you'd be surprised at how many organizations feel threatened, right? Or like, why are libraries in this space? And so, yeah, it helps to see like what gaps exist. You're not replicating, duplicating efforts, but actually where does the library fit in? And the libraries are always going to fit in the ecosystem. It's figuring out that question of how your library can do that too.
Right. So now entrepreneurial ecosystems, that seems like such a buzzword, but right now we're going to define what that even means. So entrepreneurial ecosystems are made up of social and economic factors that cooperate, compete, interact, and are constantly evolving. So generally, entrepreneurial ecosystems are defined by city or metropolitan area. And these factors are constantly working together or interacting. And you can see that in this example here, how entrepreneurs interact with different organizations. So entrepreneurs have to work with government departments for licensing, legal matters, paying taxes. Sometimes they work with financial institutions for funding and getting loans. Sometimes they work with universities for sourcing talent. And then also supply chains are a big factor. And most importantly, customers. So you can see just from an entrepreneur's perspective, these are all the organizations they're constantly working with. So this is part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And now on the next slide, we are going to explain the factors that make up every ecosystem. So there's 10 main ones, and I'm going to define them right now. So starting off, the entrepreneur culture, this is the degree in which entrepreneurship is valued in your community and the degree in which self-employment is seen as a viable career choice. So there are some really popular entrepreneur cultures. The first one people might think of is Silicon Valley. The entrepreneur culture is one of the strongest in the entire world. Basically, if you haven't started a tech startup, you're the odd one out. So entrepreneur cultures is just how valued is entrepreneurship in your area. Networks is how well connected are entrepreneurs and businesses where you're located. So how do they work together? How much do they even know each other? So that connection, strong connections allow for the flow of information, resources, and talent. So this flow really connects everyone, brings everyone together, and strengthens the ecosystem. Next, physical infrastructure. This is closely tied with where you're actually located. So this is how accessible are resources, how accessible are other cities. So basically, if you're in a rural area, if you're in a city, if you're in the coast, those factors play into the physical infrastructure. Demand is how much disposable income is available in your area that can support new businesses. Leadership is sometimes referred to as champions or conveners. These are individuals that are organizing the ecosystem, promoting entrepreneurship, bringing awareness to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So they are kind of key players in the ecosystem, like well-known individuals that are really pushing the needle forward. Talent is made up of the human capital, which is partly education, partly experience. And then intermediate services. These are support organizations and support groups that help with the growth and success of new businesses. Knowledge is the investment in new knowledge, which opens up opportunities. And then two more, finance is what is the accessibility and availability of financing new and growing businesses. Lastly, formal institutions, that is how much does your local government support new businesses and entrepreneurship where you're located. So looking at these factors, I'm interested if any stand out for your particular location of elements that support entrepreneurship where you are. Just any that might jump out. If you want to put it in the chat, we'd be interested in hearing them.
Yeah, that's interesting, Carly. I know in Providence, when they talk about physical infrastructure too, with businesses, small businesses, they're talking a lot about digital inequities and businesses that that lack like reliable internet or Wi-Fi. So a lot of the ARPA money, I think Providence wants to dish out is going to be for helping small businesses get connected. So they kind of consider that as part of the infrastructure aspect, and that plays a lot to do with formal institutions, right, at the city level. And it's interesting what you said too, like for every ecosystem, some of these are stronger than others, right? Some places may lack leadership. Some places may have more intermediate services than not too. Let's see if we get in the chat too. So Stacy writes that their town is really trying to start entrepreneurial culture right now. So trying to get everything off the ground. And formal institutions, Adriana talked about, having formal institutions, a handful of agencies serving small businesses too. Yeah, and it's interesting, like Adriana said too, a lot of times those networking of businesses can be strong or not strong too. In Providence, we find we have a lot of institutions, but there's not much of a, say, a network connecting them. Yeah, that's great. Okay, good. Thank you everyone for thoughts. I think I missed one too up here.
Sorry, everyone, my Wi-Fi cut out for a second.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so I'm pulling up the chat. Did we get any responses?
We did, yeah, some good ones. Yeah, there's a lot. Some places talk about they're building the infrastructure, and other places mention that there are institutions in place like to kind of support the ecosystem.
Perfect. Okay, great. So, all right, we're all thinking about the elements right now, and I know that that was a lot of information. So I figured it might help to put this in a real life example. So as it was mentioned, I work with Baltimore County Public Library. And so I am going to put this in the Baltimore metropolitan area ecosystem. So I love this picture of Baltimore, downtown Baltimore, and this headline really exemplifies the supportive factors and that are existing in Baltimore. So some of the supportive factors in Baltimore, we definitely have a strong entrepreneurial culture. There was an article that was published in 2020 for the top 50 surge cities for starting and growing businesses, and Baltimore was actually listed as number 38. Entrepreneurship is just very valued in our area. And then intermediate services, these are organizations that are really supporting workshops, classes, providing a lot of services. Sorry, there's an echo in the background. So intermediate services, we have a ton of different organizations such as the Small Business Development Center, the Latino Economic Development Center, the Small Business Resource Center. We have a huge network of support organizations that are available in the greater Baltimore area. And that leads to knowledge. These organizations offer a ton of classes and workshops that are increasing the knowledge available in our area. And then also another aspect of knowledge is the university side. So a lot of our local universities are offering entrepreneurship as a major, as a minor, and really encouraging entrepreneurship in academia as well. Physical infrastructure, we are in a great location. We're about an hour from DC and about an hour and a half from Philadelphia. We're also on the water, so we have access to ports. So our physical infrastructure is pretty strong. Talent, we have a lot of universities in and around Baltimore, such as Johns Hopkins University, the University of Maryland, Towson University, Morgan State University. We have a lot of talent that's available to starting businesses. Networks, this kind of connects all the elements I just mentioned. So, and even in the subheading of this article, it says the bustling community is often affectionately called Small-Timor. So the entrepreneurs in the greater Baltimore area are really supportive of each other. And everyone's kind of interconnected. So that we have a lot of supportive factors for entrepreneurship here. Some inhibiting factors are kind of how you see it, but leadership, I'll say that there aren't any key individuals that stand out for kind of organizing the ecosystem, promoting the ecosystem. There are a lot of organizations, but not those entrepreneurial champions or conveners that are sometimes referenced when talking about leadership. Finance, there are banks, obviously, and there are opportunities for grants. However, where we are lacking is pre-seed funding. So pre-seed funding is for before you even get the business going. There are parts of Baltimore that have that are pretty poverty stricken. So individuals that might not have good credit, don't even have the opportunity to access traditional bank loans or things like that. So having more pre-seed funding available will eliminate that barrier that people often face before they even get the business going. So people might have a great idea, they might have the personal characteristics to make the business successful, but if they can't get past that initial funding they need, then they won't be able to start their business. So pre-seed funding is definitely an inhibiting factor in the area. And then lastly, demand is both a supportive and inhibiting factor. just based on there's a large wealth gap. So in some of the areas that could benefit most from entrepreneurship, because of the economic development and the job creation, it would take a while to for these areas to be able to support new businesses. And I can exemplify that that in Western Baltimore, where there's a lot of poverty, this area a few years ago couldn't even support a Target. A Target closed a few years ago because it wasn't making enough money. So if these areas can't support large retailers like Target, then newer businesses that aren't seen as necessities in the community probably won't be supported as well. However, on the opposite, there are a lot of parts of Baltimore that would be able to support new businesses. So it kind of depends on the location. So it goes on both sides of the scale. So that's an example of Baltimore, but it depends completely on where you are and what's available for you to identify the supporting and inhibiting factors.
That's great. Yeah, thanks. I like the way you sorted it out in terms of Baltimore too. I think Providence is very similar, I think, when you look at supportive factors and inhibiting factors too. And I think what's nice doing a kind of this like landscape analysis, I think, we did something similar in Providence, is that it positions you to figure out what kind of services you're going to offer to, like, or maybe not even just services, but you could figure out if your library is going to be a convener, like, a place to put together different partners, right? Or if you're going to partner with another agency on programming, and just creating the library as a safe space for others to do programming in those spaces too. So I think once you have this in place, right, Carly, you can really figure out what kind of services or what kind of offerings you can do, or what you already have at your library that's going to attract partners too.
Exactly. And Chris, that actually reminds me, could you go back one slide, please? In this scale, I actually bolded some of the elements that I think libraries can really be involved in. So the network side of it, connecting organization and connecting entrepreneurs. So libraries can really strengthen the networks that exist. Libraries can add to the knowledge that's available through programming and workshops. And lastly, to the same end, intermediate services of connecting with other support organizations and also programming. So these are the three that I think libraries can really fit in. However, there's other ones too, but these are the ones that I think stand out the most.
Yeah, I think when I think about what we do in Providence, I think those are the top three exactly. Those are the top three areas that we can fill too, we definitely fit in the network, and we help organize the network, I think, in some ways. And we also have the knowledge bases, especially like the databases that other agencies don't have and can leverage. And we provide intermediate services, right, to help as an on-ramp to other agencies too.
Yes, on-ramp. Yeah, that's another part, making entrepreneurship more accessible. So libraries, that's a great word. In some ecosystems, on-ramps and intersections where you can bring people together is seen as another part of the ecosystem. So I'm glad you mentioned the on-ramp, because libraries can make entrepreneurship seem like a viable career path.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially for people who have barriers to getting involved in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks. Okay, and again, once you have the landscape analysis, there are a lot of organizations to consider, and just some examples too. We've reached out with, for example, the Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Development Center, SCORE. We're a big partner with our local SCORE is very active and pretty good. So we do a lot in partnership with SCORE, community development, financial institutions, accelerators, maker spaces, co-working spaces. The library can be a great co-working space for people. Universities, nonprofits, local business associations. So there's a lot of organizations to consider, and as you're making partnerships too, and you'll find I think you'll always find, I know in the libraries we've helped in terms of the coaching and mentee relationship, you'll find some partners, some places that are easy partners to create things with. Other partners are maybe less likely to partner with you, but at least you still get the involvement, like what they offer too, and you make those connections too. So Carly,
Right.
what's been most successful for you in Baltimore?
Well, we work a lot with the Small Business Development Center. We offer a 7-week entrepreneur academy that covers all the steps needed to take a business idea and turn it into an actual business. So the Small Business Development Center was a large part of that. We've done programs there's a local community development financial institution called Maryland Capital Enterprises. So we did a funding event recently with them. And then universities as well, working with like the local community college. We wanted to list a lot of organizations that are available nationwide. So there's SCORE networks all over the country. There's chambers of commerce everywhere. So we wanted to offer these organizations that you might find where you are located.
Yeah, and some may be stronger. I know like our local score is good, but I know in other parts of the country they may not be so much robust. And our Chamber of Commerce isn't really that active. So yeah, but it may be very active in your town too. So yeah, but you have to go out, make those connections with different agencies and see where the touch points are, and you'll definitely find, I think, some really good. I think from that list you'll find some really good partners, I think.
Yeah, and I did want to mention for local business associations, they're often neighborhood based. So where you're located, there might be several business associations that you might want to reach out to.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of opportunities for connecting with these different support organizations.
Yeah, great. And how do we reach out? So this means, yeah, basically, and this is, it's interesting in Providence because I've had the experience of both. One, we have an established program, and reaching out to other local agencies or institutions kind of to kind of see where the touch points are, but also in starting new classes like our ESL for entrepreneur class we started in Providence. We had to really kind of go through the ecosystem again and see like who can we partnership on a new initiative too. So we have that experience, I think, doing both too. And it's interesting, I think, I know from our cohort too, we've talked about this, the first bullet point too, that, there are a lot of misconceptions, like, the library is just a place for books, right? There's a typical stereotype of, I think, that we encounter too. And there are some agencies that may not understand how the library is part of the ecosystem too. So being able to advocate and explain that is, I think, a big, going into the meeting is, I think, a big bonus. And then explaining, your current initiatives, you're able to talk about those well. And what are the future goals? What is it you're looking to do to support the business community? And then obviously recapping what your organization does and what they do, so you fully understand each other's missions and services, and how the partnering could be mutually beneficial. And again, that means, and that could be just a referral system. It could be combining, partnering on programming together, going in on funding together, grant opportunities, and being clear with the outcome. What is it you want to come away with in the meeting too? What's going to come out of this partnership too? Again, is it referrals? Is it creating programming together, that sort of thing, bringing an organization into the library so they can utilize the library's resources too. There are a lot of different ways it can go depending on the partner too.
Right, and being able to share your vision for the partnership about what audience you're trying to reach, working with organizations that have similar audience, you're trying to reach the same people, can really benefit. And then, yeah, just sharing what you want out of the partnership, I think, is really important in order to create a strong partnership going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point too. An example we have in Providence is we've worked out with a lot of local, we have Rhode Island School of Design is a famous school too. And there's a lot of graduates who are doing entrepreneurial efforts in Providence too. And it was an easy sell to reach out to them and see how we can kind of work together to kind of, address the needs of like budding artists who are also entrepreneurs too. So those sort of things, like, yeah, once you have a clear goal and a clear target audience to it, it works really well to come up with either programming or initiatives together.
Yeah, definitely. And I can say just 2 examples from Baltimore County. We want to better support our veteran community. So we found a local organization called Project Opportunity that provides entrepreneurial training to veterans and military spouses. So we partnered with them for a program over the summer because we're both trying to support veterans. And then this spring, we also are holding our Entrepreneurial Academy, which I just mentioned earlier, but we're holding it fully in Spanish. So we're reaching out to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Latino Economic Development Center, because like I said, we're trying to reach the same audience and support them. So it makes sense to partner with those organizations.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Well said. Okay, good. All right. And now if Megan, if you can help, we're going to actually want to ask you a question. Again, to keep the conversation going, so we're not doing all the talking, thinking about successes and challenges too. And obviously creating partnerships it's not always peaches and cream. Yeah. And thinking about like, in terms of partnering that you've done with your library, can you think of a success and a challenge you've had in forming partnerships? So we've got a big group, but we want to see if we can put everyone in breakout rooms and take a few minutes to think about the question too. So
How many minutes are we going to be in the breakout rooms?
Let's see. Do you want to say 5 minutes, 6 minutes?
5 or 6 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to assign everyone randomly. So enjoy your group. Here we go.
Thanks.
Hello. Hello. Did we get kicked into another room?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Chris, how was your conversation?
It was excellent. I always learn so much, from other libraries and what people are doing too. Yeah. How was yours?
Great. Yeah, there was a lot of great thoughts, and it seems like some people had some of the same challenges. For example, one being making the library seem as a complementary service rather than a competing service in the business community.
Yeah.
And another topic that came up was the Chamber of Commerce being expensive. So yeah, there was some similarities we found.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we noticed like the library is a good place for a safe space for people to come in and ask questions and look for help too. Because I know, and at least in Providence, a lot of BIPOC communities are very wary of local government agencies too. But coming into the library as a first step is reassuring for, I think, a lot of people too. And it's great to see other libraries around the country, like in Newton, Connecticut, making connections to SCORE and with other have meetings on the books with other agencies like Chamber of Commerce too, which is nice. I'm curious to see. I'd love to be a fly on the wall for the conversations to see like how it goes too. And also that, the pandemic definitely disrupted partnerships too, which is something I obviously had forgotten about, but it's true. It has, like you may have a partnership with SCORE to do a series of classes, but the pandemic has put everything either kibosh on things, or it's made, things have come back, but not quite to where they were pre-pandemic levels too, unfortunately. Yeah, it's a big challenge too.
Yeah, that came up in our conversation as well, how COVID really impacted partnerships.
Yeah, impacted things too. Yeah. But it was great. Thanks for everyone for sharing too. I hope that's worthwhile.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So part two, besides connecting with partners, well, how do you connect with entrepreneurs is another, in local communities too, is another big issue I think that we all try to deal with too. And I think I want to share a little bit of a program we had going on in Providence we have a Brown University, like Baltimore, we have a lot of universities in the nearby area too. And Brown University and Rhode Island School of Design have a co-taught master's program on design engineering. And of course, students want to do like a local project. So we recruited some grad students to do a project. And they did this great kind of review of library programs and also like patron journeys. And they did all kinds of great things. They interviewed patrons coming into the library. They set up tables to observe things. They had little Google surveys for people who've gone through our programs too. And they kind of created this sort of patron journey. So this could connect to entrepreneurial services or other services too. And they said in an ideal world, and here it's PPL, but this could be any library. So people gaining awareness of the programs, they decide to attend the program, they go to the class, and if they like the course, they stay in it. And then they may, like a lot of times, if it's really successful, right, they want to attend another course, and there's this little feedback loop of asking us, what's next? Or what can I do next? Or where can I go next? Maybe get an achieving a goal and become a course instructor. So they kind of created this sort of ideal patron journey based on kind of what our ideal is and what we're trying to do in terms of it's, again, this could specifically for entrepreneurial services, but it can be for other educational or other any kind of program services you do. But what they found from talking to patrons is that this is the huge area of barriers that people gaining awareness of our programs is such a huge barrier. And it seemed like this side of things seems to work really well because we do have a lot of like program evaluation in place and a lot of asking publics and people that go through our courses, what do you want to learn next? Or they're just naturally come into that. So this part of the programming, which is nice because I'm in charge of that, this goes really well, but it's, we're definitely not, we definitely could do a better job as a library of gaining awareness in PPL's programs too. And part of that is, I think, I don't know how you guys feel, but during the pandemic, we lost a lot of foot traffic, which was huge, our traditional audience, right, for gaining, entry into our programs. And it's also, getting that foot traffic back in the library, but also trying to market in virtual spaces is new for us, and social media and those things, that's not in our wheelhouse, though we've hired people now to try to help us with that too. But also people coming into the library, you still have that, saying again, talking about that misconception of libraries of what we do, that you don't realize that we have these services in place too. So it's kind of a trick with us, is how do we get, the foot traffic in the building again, how do we connect them to the programming, those programming options as they walk in, but also how do we market to other areas too? I don't know if other people have seen that too, but that's definitely kind of what we're kind of looking at. And, in the future, how can we do a better job of that too?
Yeah, and bridging that gap.
Yep, and bridging that gap, right? Yeah, it's hard to. All right, so we've got a Jamboard, we got another interactive activity too, if you want to take a second too. So the question is, how does your library spread the word about your business programs too? And so I guess, I guess we should put that in the chat, right, Carly?
Yes.
Let me just get out of this. Whoops. Stop the share for a second too. Excuse me, guys. I'm going to put it in the chat 1 second. If I can get out of the mode. Okay. I'll share my screen 1 second. So I'm going to get the Jamboard copied. I'm going to put it in the, paste it into the chat. So if you guys, I'll put the link in the Jamboard there, and then I'll go back. I'll share my screen again.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, sure. And bear with me, guys. Okay, can you see that? Can you share can you see the?
Yes, yeah, that looks great.
All right, awesome. So if you haven't used Jambi before, here's the question on top is, how does your library spread the word about your business programs or other programs to the community? And then here, if you go to the right, there's a little sticky note. You can kind of click the sticky note, choose your color, and then you can type in what you want to add to that, to how you advertise to.
We have our first one, the local newspaper.
Local newspaper. I would not have guessed that. That's great. Yay.
So some traditional marketing that must work in that area.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah. Constant contact email.
The email list. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. We got Facebook and Twitter. Yeah. Virtual in-building flyers and signs. Yep. E-newsletter. Yep. Social media, word of mouth.
Yeah, Danielle mentioned word of mouth in the chat as well.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, that's such a big one. Email distribution, website advertising. Yep, put that to Facebook. Yeah, put
some more
email
flyers
together.
So it seems like there's some overlapping marketing methods here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. What other libraries in the area? That's a big one. Yes, for us too.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, very similar. I think. Yeah, like traditional forms of marketing, right, Carly? Like you mentioned too, and then other areas of. I think we've hit everything too with Facebook, Instagram, social media,
event calendars,
newsletters, calendars. Yeah, yep. Ongoing presentations to other agencies too. Yep.
And asking presenters to promote that definitely helps to spread the word to their networks. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of another way of word of mouth, right? Yeah, to help them promote it too. It helps a lot if you get the right partner. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if that partner is pretty well known, then they have a big network.
Yeah, that can really help you too. This is great. What a great list. Thank you all for brainstorming that. It's great.
Awesome. Yeah, those
cool.
were some great answers.
Yeah, I love it too. Okay, so I go back and I'll present too. So we got so I think, we're really similar, I think, in terms of how we promote our programs, traditional ways and other ways too. And we've, and certainly no expert on this too, but we just hired a digital marketing person at the library, and everyone's like ready to grab the person and like, help us market our programs too. Because we just found out, again, like I just mentioned, the word of mouth has really dropped because of the pandemic. So we don't have that foot traffic in the library. So we've really struggled with other ways to market our programs. And for me, it's always seems hit or miss. Like you put it out there in the ether, and sometimes it's really successful, get a lot of people, sometimes we don't. And so we've been really thinking about, we've done newsletters and social media posting too, and like our partners, right, helping spread the word for our programs too. And then we're just getting involved in just the first conversations around like geofencing, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys have experience of use that at your library too. We're just kind of getting our feet wet with how that works, of like actually targeting marketing to different places. So you're actually like revamping our traditional marketing strategy. So you're like allowing, it lets you target people in geographic areas. So it could be a country, it could be a state, it could be a region, it could be parts of a city, street, block, people coming into the library, outside the library. It places digital ads directly on a person's mobile device. When they enter a specific location, boom. And so you get a direct response or call to action too. But it's also, it's also like you can reject it if, if you don't, it's not like it's because I know with the libraries, you don't want to like be like Big Brother. So people can kind of, can say, accept that they're getting those kind of messages or not too. So you can opt out of it, which is important, I think too. But it's really interesting because you can, it means you can move your advertising in the outside world to different places. So for example, if someone's around the Chamber of Commerce, boom, and they get a little library, hey, have you seen the library? Libraries involved in businesses, come to the library. There's usually some kind of call to action behind it too. So we're just getting our feet wet, like even just talking about it too. At the library, we do a lot of adult education classes, like GED and English as a second language. So we're actually trying to geofence sort of messaging to different communities around the city of Providence too, where, for different audiences that we haven't reached before too. And a lot of times the geofencing has little like kind of videos or content. It's a lot like using TikTok, like some kind of, interesting little video that hooks people too. So, but this is all like, for me, it's the brave new world, and it's not in my wheelhouse, but it is like, something I think that as libraries we're starting to think about is how do we market better in this mobile world too? Because I know we put things out on Instagram and Facebook and we get some hits, but it's not like we're getting like hundreds of people involved in that in our programs. So how do you get the word out too? So it's all new for us too. But it is kind of the wave of the future too. So we're just like, we're just doing some research online and getting guest speakers and doing some kind of workshops with other agencies around the area, around geofencing and videos and content too.
Yeah, the concept of geofencing is fascinating. I definitely want to look into that more.
Yeah, it's really interesting too. And a lot of it involves TikTok videos too. Like, it's really interesting. Yeah, which is again, not, I look at maybe videos of cats, but this is really, but like other libraries and other like adult ed agencies around the country have really made is really catchy little TikTok videos with that kind of call to action. And it's really, it's interesting. And they find it really like effective too. So I'm really interested to see the future. So just to put that term in your ear and you can research it and see where it goes to.
And going off of that, I wanted to mention targeting, which is a business concept for getting relevant content in front of the people that are most likely to engage with it. And so we have kind of started doing this at Baltimore County Public Library by starting, for one, a business email list. This was initially started with our Entrepreneur Academy graduates. We gave them the opportunity to join this business list, and we would send them just opportunities related to business resources, business programming, because if they did our Entrepreneur Academy and were interested in starting a business, they have a clear interest for these kind of topics. So we've had 6 cohorts of Entrepreneur Academy so far, and after every cohort, we give them the opportunity to join this list. And now at this point, we have people asking to join the email list who haven't even done Entrepreneur Academy, just because they're interested in this specific content. And we send out 1 to 2 emails a month for upcoming programs or different opportunities. So it's really helped us, because if we have a new program that just was put on our event calendar and I send out an email to this business email list, the attendance definitely spikes, just because this is our target audience for those programs. And then likewise, identifying where these people are online and then meeting them where they are. So finding where these people spend time online and then getting the information to them there, rather than just trying to get all these people to your website, to your library's website. And so an example of this is our library has a Facebook page where we promote our events. And for the business events, I'm a part of like a group called Baltimore Entrepreneurs, or small businesses of different areas in our county. And I will take the post on our business or on our library page, and I'll share it to those business groups, because if the people are part of this Baltimore Entrepreneur group, they have an interest in this. So I share it to people that are specifically interested in business topics. And then lastly, sharing opportunities that people will most likely be interested in. And one more example for that, we had a pop-up shop at 5 of our library branches on Small Business Saturday. And after sending the opportunity to our email list and posting it on social media, we still wanted to get a few more vendors signed up. So I thought to reach out to the individuals that attended one of our Etsy events, because as an Etsy shop owner, you're selling something online, either jewelry or creative products. So I sent this opportunity to our Etsy list, and a lot of those people weren't on our business list. So I got a ton of responses saying, oh my gosh, thank you for this opportunity. And immediately within the next day, we had 5 more people registered. So really knowing what people are interested in and then giving that content, that specific content to those individuals, is a really effective way of sharing the information. And then on the right-hand side, I show an example of the Baltimore County Chamber of Commerce is really great at sharing our events. So this is from their Instagram page. I took a screenshot, and the Baltimore County Chamber of Commerce promotes a lot of our business programs, which is really great. But yeah, so forming those partnerships, like cross-promoting events, are all really effective methods for getting the word out there to entrepreneurs and business owners.
Yeah, that's great. It's a good partner if they're sharing all your upcoming.
Yeah, they're really
programs.
great.
That's great. Yeah, and the idea, I like the idea of multi-segment marketing too. I know someone had mentioned constant contact. We just did the Jamboard too, and that's true. It's kind of similar, where you're kind of developing a list of people who have gone to the programs through emails, and then kind of hitting them again and again with different content, and you've got the captive audience. Yeah.
And that's another part of the sales cycle, is sometimes people have to see your content multiple times before they take the next action. So if they're seeing your content regularly, they're more likely to take that next step and either attend a program, join your email list. Susan just mentioned MailChimp, which is great for email marketing. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess there's a term for that. Responsive recruitment, I think, is what they call that kind of, where you're trying to really, really try to hit them often, right, to get them,
Definitely.
into your programs too. That's great.
To make it stick, at least.
Make it stick, exactly. Right. That's excellent. Great, thanks. Okay, good. And we got, so we're almost there. Should we do another Jamboard, you think, or should we?
Well, it depends. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat, but otherwise we only have 5 minutes left.
Yeah, so let's go. Yeah.
We
can see if anyone has other thoughts too about anything good to know that maybe we didn't cover, about talking about partnerships or something that stuck out to you in terms of the talk too. Love to know. And thank you, Carly, for co-presenting. Really appreciate it.
Oh, Chris, thank you. This was fun.
This is great. Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I think when you get to, the idea of partnerships, it's fun. It's really interesting though. And sometimes it's never always like, it can be hit or miss for sure. Sometimes you can make a connection, and it's just good to know what someone else is doing. And but it may not necessarily have to lead to like a certain partnership with someone too, but sometimes.
It's great to think or to hear about things that you might not have even considered. If it's working for another library, it might be worth trying it at your library.
Yep. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, well, we're getting some good feedback in the chat.
Thank you. That's great too. Was there another slide? Was there something after? Was that?
Yeah, there's one more slide, and it's just a closing thought.
From
a really great website. I'll put the website in the chat. But it has to do with the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And if you are in a smaller area, or you don't think there's a very strong entrepreneurial ecosystem, the library can be a really great way to build onto it and to connect those organizations. And I got this from a website, and I'll put it in the chat, like I just said, because it really explains the entrepreneurial ecosystem really well. But your library can be a change maker and really have an impact in the ecosystem through programs and things like that. So if you're interested in learning more.
Yeah, it's so true. The library can really serve that purpose. Yep, for sure. And just as a community space, it's huge for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, definitely. And I know a lot of libraries are doing a lot of amazing things. So
yeah, definitely. A lot out there
the library can be that leader or the champion. That's really moving entrepreneurship in the right direction.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Carly. That's a great quote. And in the chat, I know Megan just put in our exit ticket too, if you get a chance to. Yeah, if you can fill that out, we'd appreciate it. Any feedback you have too. And thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys. Any conversations and great thoughts. And obviously we learned a lot from you guys too.
Yeah, thanks for spending your Thursday afternoon with us.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yes, exactly. And happy holidays, everyone too. All right, any final thoughts? I'll keep a note in the chat and thanks. Appreciate it. Anyway, thank you everyone. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks
for joining.
everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thanks, Carly and Chris. That was wonderful. It
Thank
was
you.
nice to see everyone today. Thank you for joining us.